Anyone who's watched me over the years knows that I'm obsessed with Hydrolyte. In my opinion, the best oral rehydration product on the market. I literally use it every day. My family uses it. When I had COVID, I'm telling you, Hydrolyte contributed to my recovery, kept me hydrated. Now, with things finally reopening back around the country, the potential exposure to the common cold is always around. And like always, Hydrolyte has got your back. Hydrolyte Plus Immunity, my new favorite, starts with their fast-absorbing electrolytes and adds a host of great ingredients. Plus, each single serving easy pour drink mix contains 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C, 300 milligrams of elderberry extract. Hydrolyte Plus Immunity comes in convenient, easy to pour sticks that rapidly dissolve in water, make a great tasting drink, has 75% less sugar than your typical sports drink. It uses all natural flavors, gluten-free, dairy-free, caffeine-free, non-GMO, and even vegan. Hydrolyte Plus Immunity is also now available in ready-to-drink bottles at the Walmart next to the pharmacy, or as always, you can find it by visiting hydrolyte.com/Dr. Drew. Again, that is HYDRALYTE.com/DRDREW. Be sure to use the code Dr. Drew 25 for a special discount.
Hey everyone, it's a dose of Dr. Drew.
And there we are. And right next to me is the great Michael Rosenbaum. How are you, sir?
I was very nervous because all of a sudden I heard, I didn't hear anything, and you were talking about those drinks or whatever, the Hydrate.
The Hydrate, yeah,
I thought, I quickly panicked. This is what I need to talk to you about. I panicked. I emailed Susan immediately and said, can't hear. And then now I can hear.
Now here we are. We're all good. Hey, you know, yeah. I was thinking before we get into, we got so much to talk about, and thank you for, having me on your podcast too. I appreciate it. Where are you right now?
I'm in my office.
Where is home?
Laurel Canyon.
Laurel Canyon. So you were in the Guardians of the Galaxy 2, right?
Yeah, I had a little part. It's supposed to be bigger later on, per the director, my buddy James Gunn.
Well, that's what I wanted to say. How great is James Gunn? What a great guy is he? I've known him before. I know James when he was just Jenna Fisher's husband back then. You know what I mean? And immediately I was like, this is a great guy. This is an amazing dude. I did not know it's packed that full of talent, but I knew he was a good guy.
Yeah, that mind of his is just, it's insane to be around. And by the way, a biggest heart in the world. Like a lot of people know him as this big director, but we both went through we went through a breakup together. And I remember just like crying with him. And he's got a heart of gold, and like to see that, and then to see these giant movies that he's in charge of. And, it's pretty amazing, but a great guy, great talent.
Was that the Jenna breakup or a subsequent breakup?
That was an after breakup. That was a few years later. He was seeing someone, I was seeing someone, and we were both kind of broken. And he'll probably get upset if I get into it. But,
no reason to. I brought it up only to say that we used to go out with them a little bit when it was Jenna and James, and I always thought it was so amazing. They grew up in the same neighborhood in St. Louis, and they were just like had all this kismet in their life. And when they broke up, I was sort of surprised by that.
Well, what's amazing is, did you know how close of friends they are still to this day?
I do.
That's got to be an anomaly, especially like how often you've dealt with divorce and people like that.
Yeah.
I mean, how often do people become really close friends?
Yep. And their families are friends and everything. It makes sense given how tight their heritage was together. It'd be weird if they became enemies.
Yeah. I don't know how I would do it. I always try to be friends and be a good guy when I'm going out with women and hoping we could have a friendship. But I don't know, it's probably, therapy and the fact that most of my family are divorced, and, my sister more than thrice divorced. I think it's quadruple divorced.
Oh.
But like when I think about it, I'm like, I always give them an out. Like, listen, this 99% of the time, I'm not the guy. And the one time it is 50% of those break up. So let's just try to have fun. That can't be healthy though, can it?
I'm not quite sure what you're saying. You're saying you're the guy that causes the breakup, or what are we saying?
I'm not good luck Chuck. What I'm saying is that I like to let them know that, look, it probably won't work out. I'm incredibly
I see. At the beginning, you're not that guy. I get it.
Yeah, look, I don't, so anyway, I don't know. I'm working on it.
That's good.
I am. We had this session, like I always, whenever I talk to him, like, oh yes, I saved couple $100 on therapy because it's Dr. Drew. You're like, no, we're not getting into therapy. But
no, we can now. We can. We're in control of this ship. However you want to take it's where we're going to go.
All right.
Simple.
All right. I like
Can you, by the way, can you update people on what you're working on now?
Yeah, I've got this podcast called Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum. And, at first it started as a podcast where everybody has a podcast. I've been doing it a couple of years now. But, one of my friends was like, you're good with people. You should do it. I'm like, nah. And then he went on, he goes, you can make some money. And I go, oh, wait, what?
Oh, man, what?
But then I realized how hard it is. And it's really difficult. And to get an audience that I suddenly became vulnerable when I do my podcast and start talking about my insecurities, my disappointments, my failures, whatever. And then the guests would open up and it just became something else where I actually feel like I have purpose doing it. So, like Stephen Amell from Arrow had an anxiety attack on the podcast, which he let me air. And, and Zach Levi, who Shazam came on and, talks about like the therapy he goes through and the medications. And it just opens up the door for like people to, mental health. There's such a stigma. And I think the more obviously we talk about it, and you talk about it on my podcast, we talked about your insecurities, but the podcast is something that I hold very dear to my heart. And, my listeners are pretty amazing. So it's Inside You with Michael Rosenbaum. I love you to subscribe.
They've got it. They've got the Twitter up there for you. Is that the same as? It's a different Twitter than the Michael Rosenbaum, right?
Yeah, it's at Inside You Pod, I think, on the Twitter.
Excellent.
And then you're Michael Rosenbaum.
All right, here's the deal.
On Twitter, and then
on Twitter, it wouldn't fill my name.
Oh
so
my
instead
God,
of Michael Rosenbaum, I had to say bum.
I think it's funny.
That is so effing funny. That is really funny.
But that's the reality. I couldn't fit an A in there.
But on your Instagram, it's the Michael Rosenbaum.
Yeah, the Michael Rosenbaum on the Instagram.
And then on Facebook, it's Michael Rosenbaum.
At Michael Rosenbaum, yeah.
You've got a long list of different things. It's okay.
Well, you got to be relevant these days, and that's a hard thing because you got the Twitch and you got the what are the kids doing?
Oh, you're on Twitch too?
No, I'm not on Twitch. But
are you on TikTok?
He said them kids got the tick. The kids have got it.
Well, I'm not on TikTok, and now it's become this huge thing, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Drew's on TikTok.
Are you on TikTok?
I'm not on TikTok. Do I got to start TikToking?
Yes, you do.
You got it. I think we're going to be spending all of our day juggling social media platforms. That's what's going to happen going forward. It's going to be you're not going to exist if you don't exist on 14 platforms. It's so insane. The alternative way to do it is just focus on a single platform. So
but you know what? I always said I'm not going on Instagram. What's this crap? I stuck on Twitter. Then I'm like, wow, nobody's on Twitter anymore. And then you're like, okay, I'll do Instagram. And now there's always something else. And it's just hard. It's hard to catch up. And so
there's also locals. You have to join locals as well. It's locals, they pay to be on that platform.
Yeah, you're sort of in control of that one. It's not so
we have
crazy.
A good locals following.
Yeah,
that sounds like a dating app to me.
I hope it doesn't become that.
We didn't want to tell you, but
oh my goodness. So part of one of your objectives in your podcast is to call out flaws in people, public figures, and things. So have at me, my friend. Now's your chance. By the way, the whole world. I've been through I've been through so many Twitter shitstorms in my life. Shitterstorms. Let's call them shitterstorms.
He's got post-COVID vaccination head right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's going on there? You said you weren't feeling well right before we started recording.
So I had moderate to severe COVID. I just narrowly missed a hospitalization, and then I got long hauler symptoms after that. I sort of got pulled out of that after about 2.5 months with something called fluvoxamine, which really turned me around and got me better. Lately, I've been great, still with some ringing in my ear and some weird word finding problems, but really pretty good. So we're going to do some international travel in like June, and a Johnson & Johnson vaccine opened up today, so I just went and got it, and now I'm getting sick, which I could predict. I react to everything,
You want me to get you some Tylenol or something?
No, I'm going to wait till I actually get sick. I'm sort of weird right now.
I just got the vaccine for Johnson & Johnson too, and let me tell you, luckily, nothing.
Good.
I know no adverse effects. I got the injection. It felt like a 3-year-old slipped me in my arm. No pain.
Yeah.
Like nothing. So it's been a couple of weeks. And by the way, what's the efficacy on 2 weeks? Am I?
You're good. You're good to go. You're now ready. Ready for prime time.
Really?
Yeah. Now you're 90% good, and you're pretty much 100% against death and hospitalization, that kind of thing.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
You never think of doctors getting this stuff. You always think somehow doctors don't get it. They don't
well, as Adam told me, whenever I got sick, which is, I get sick a lot, he thought it was hysterical. He said it's like a fireman having his house burned down. He think it's so funny. And so first of all, I'm like, thank you. That's nice. But I'm starting to have like I get this characteristic thing from vaccines where my neck and back hurt, and then I get fever, and then I feel shitty for a couple of days. So I've already started with the neck thing. So we'll see if it goes beyond that. I'll let you know.
Well, let me ask you this. My mom, she's a hypochondriac. I probably get it from her. She's always got issues. She gets the COVID, and she's like, it's been weeks. And she's like, I fell out of bed again. I did this. I don't know. And then she, like yesterday, she's like, I went for a run today. I just got back from. I'm like, oh, so you're good now? No, I'm still feeling these. Is it normal for? She's a 73-year-old woman to continue on with these symptoms like for months on end.
What's not normal is for a 73-year-old to go for a run. So she's already exceptional. Let's put her in the exceptional category, right?
She's exceptional. Trust me.
Yeah.
I've had to do exceptional shit. Can you say shit on the show?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And so whatever little quirky whatever she's got, let's give her that. And I will tell you, as a COVID survivor, it's so weird and protean and neurological the way it affects you. It's almost, because you're in it, it's almost hard to identify it. And somebody will say something like, do you experience, fill in the blank? You're like, yeah, I got that too. But you're not really aware of it until somebody brings it up. So there you go. You have a Patreon. Somebody's already promoting your Patreon for Inside of You, so that's good.
Boy, that has been. I'll tell you what. I didn't know what Patreon was. I knew what a patron. But people are like, you should join. I'm like, why do people want to give to the podcast when they could watch it for free and listen to free? I'm like, well, there's people that really love the podcast, so we tried it. Next thing I know, I had like 700 patrons. Wow. It's a beautiful family. I started this thing where I send merch every couple of months to the top tiers and write little notes, and they ask questions to guests, and it's pretty fantastic.
Yeah, it's these little communities that develop. We have the same thing kind of going on in locals, and these little communities that develop that are insulated from the shit, the disgusting vitriol that's in the big platforms. It's kind of nice. So again, here's your chance.
Okay.
What, Susan?
I want to hear what he thinks your flaws are.
Yeah, that's what I knew you'd be interested in.
Well, look, the one thing we discussed on my podcast, Dr. Drew, is that you don't know when to say no. It's hard for you, Susan probably helps you, but you don't stop working. It's like one thing to another, and you don't leave time to sort of decompress, and you admitted to that, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, have you worked on that? Have you tried to slow down a bit, or is it just not your nature?
Susan, I'll let you answer it first, because I want it to be objectively. You've got an objective ear here, which is great, which is perfect. So, and then I'll have to defend myself against both of you. So go ahead.
Has not slowed down.
Well, here's what I found.
That's all she said.
Let me
Still
just
can't say no.
I
have to do it for him.
I kind of, of course I disagree, which is almost funny.
And he disagrees with me when he shouldn't.
But hear me out, which is COVID took my life, took our life away from us. We had a lot going on. We had a lot planned. We had all kinds of stuff going on. It completely canceled everything. I mean, our life, we went to a full stop very, very quickly. And in the face of that, I don't remember, Susan helped me with this, I don't remember exactly how this happened. My recollection is that Susan had an idea to start doing a stream and the things you and I were doing right now, out of our home, wherever we happen to be.
And we had a producer.
Yeah,
and we rebuilt the studio. And you said, why are we spending all this money? I don't understand.
Yeah, and I didn't even understand what it was. But once you turn me loose on something, I get kind of intense. And so I think what Susan is...
then my producer got sick with Crohn's and was gone for 2 months. And I had to start this show. So because I figured we should probably use the studio when he was gone.
But I think what you're responding to is not so much my workaholism, but my intensity. And
that's not true.
Okay.
Because when we went to New York...
Yep.
You had to do a show and we had to quarantine for 10 days for Teen Mom.
Yep.
It was like last August or something.
Yep.
And we got there and I thought, okay, I have this beautiful apartment with a gym upstairs and I'm going to work out every day. But instead, I was sitting up Zoom meetings all day long for you and trying to be quiet in the background. And for a week, like, you didn't stop working the whole time we were there. I thought, oh, we'll have some free time. We can order some food, go to the top floor, do whatever. And you had your schedule completely booked every day.
I'm going to go back to that. When was that? That was
in
like
August. But I was like, you were like,
August?
oh, I have a meeting tomorrow with
Seriously, that was in
remember
August?
that big one you had to do, and I had to sit in the other room, make
Yes.
sure the feed was working.
Yes, it was
so
now, but that was just a coincidence that it fell.
I run his show from wherever we are on my laptop, and I also set up his Zoom meetings when he does personal appearances for things, and I was in my bedroom like just trying to be quiet all day long.
I'm thinking,
and I didn't work. I worked out once in 12 days.
Susan, let me ask you, are you a catalyst though in this? Do you feel like you tell him to do certain things and it kind of, or are you the one that says, no, come on, you don't need to do that? Are you sort of in control of that? Because if you're saying yes a lot of times and he's doing, or is it, he overrides you?
No, if he really wants to do something, he'll tell me, but I'll tell him the reason not to. And usually it is, you shouldn't be doing this for free. And then he goes out and he goes, okay, I got some money and I'm going to do it. I'm like, good job. So I'm kind of like a manager in a way and a PR person at the same time. But usually I love the fact that he's a workaholic and he's out of the house and he does what he does. He's been very
listen
successful.
carefully there. You got to read between the lines.
I like being alone a lot.
She likes me out of the house.
Yes.
She likes me out of the way.
I do.
She's an unusual woman that way.
But I also have I have 15,000 other things that I do besides this show and setting up his Zoom meetings and whatnot, which I kind of like doing. It's really fun. It's kind of like a hobby for me. But
let's give Susan
it makes
a
money.
little nod here. She likes me being out, but we still do fine when we're together. It's not like she wants me out all the time. When we're together,
how
things
often
go good.
are you together though? How often would you say, like in a week, on average? How
well,
much
we do this show every day, right? We do this constantly.
How often do we have sex?
No. That's not what he's asking. He's asking.
Oh, well, but let's stay there for a second.
She'll go there. Go ahead.
Susan, how often do you have sex in a week with someone you've been married to for, I'm guessing, 30 years?
Now we've been. Let's qualify.
Well, the last
it.
couple of weeks have been weird just because I had a surgery.
She had a surgery, so we have 2 weeks of down.
I know,
here.
and he's got that lean and hungry look right now. He's looking forward to it, but.
Even with the COVID, little things.
Yeah, we had a couple
may
weeks
also
off
get
for
in the way.
COVID. That
Or
was.
he means the vaccine. That even
Yeah,
with the vaccine.
the vaccine.
That's
Yeah.
the vaccine.
Maybe
thing.
it might make you feel better, but yeah, we.
Keep thinking that way.
He was getting a blowjob like 4 times a week before, at least.
What?
Sometimes more. Yeah.
Wait a minute. Stop. Hang on. How long have you been married?
30 years.
30 years this
I was
summer.
right. 30 years. I guessed that.
Well done.
30 years, and I'm telling you, I'm 48, and when I'm in relationships, once a week is like, hey, all right. I mean, you must have a drive. You must be on the HGH or some shit.
I have a lot of testosterone, but
She's on testosterone.
be that as it may,
I'm just that way. That's all good with me.
when the kids were little, there wasn't a lot of sex going on because I had triplets. So
it waxes and wanes. Point is, we're catching up for lost time.
Yeah, but
Good for 4 beegers in a week?
yeah.
What? That's just unheard of. That's porn style. No one does that.
I don't know. It's weird.
You
Ask all
gotta
my
say
friends.
no.
They're all in the same stuff.
We're
We all
lucky.
have very
You know,
happy husbands in this town.
Jim Carrey he was once on Leno a long time ago, and he says, I actually had this woman ask me if she could give me oral pleasure, and I'm like, all right, but you owe me. It's one of those.
Oh, trust me. There's a whole like a tally sheet of compensation, but no, I'm kidding. But Susan, I'm looking.
No, but
speaking of
besides that, we work side by side. We run a corporation.
Yeah.
We have 2 kids living at home, so we have dinner with our kids every night. Like, we're a very close family. But I also have, I manage 2 properties or 3 properties that I rent out and stuff, and then I also am remodeling my house, and I'm also.
she's busy.
Susan, can I interrupt for 1 second? I'm sorry. This comment just made me laugh out loud. It just says Dr. Drew fucks.
Oh, you're looking at the.
That's the comment.
Tell him where that came from, Drew.
That came from Shaggy 2 Dope from the Insane Clown Posse. he was being interviewed and my name came up, and
He said he gets the girl. He gets the.
That was you know Shaggy and Violent J.
I've heard of them, but I'm not.
It went from us having
Susan.
sex 4 times a month to him having lots of girlfriends, and he said, "Dr. Drew fucks."
Susan, do you can you put up Violent J and Shaggy on the screen just so we get a good?
Oh God.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll try.
Yeah, it's good.
That's amazing.
Tom Cigar is quoting Shaggy, but in any event, I'm impressed that I remember that's where that came from.
Cigar's awesome.
So it's all good. But Susan, I'm looking. It was November. It was October when that all went down in New York, right? Can I say something about that?
These are the
business?
guys.
Back. You see how he keeps that in his mind 10 minutes ago. He's still hooked on what
Insane
happened.
Clown
in August.
Posse.
Well, because I wanted to show her I knew that schedule was a fluke. Oh, there's the ICP. That was my buddies.
Oh,
wait,
shoot.
go back.
Sorry, it's an ad.
Yeah, show
Sorry.
Michael. This is awesome. There they are. See them? Wow. The Juggalos. These are the original. These are the dudes. They are exceptional men, and
Awesome.
been friendly with them for a long time. So I've always wanted to go to the help me on the restream. What's the Juggalo gathering? The gathering. I wanted to go to the gathering, but everyone tells me it's too dangerous. I can't go. But I've always, if somebody wants to set up me at the gathering, it's in Ohio. I'm open to it, especially now that my life has ended because of COVID. I'm open to all kinds of things. I want to explore everything now. I feel like, I feel like I've been released from a captivity. But Susan, I'm looking at that week you talked about, right?
I do like the fact that he works a lot, but he can't say no.
I have trouble saying no.
But go back, Dr. Drew. Go back. You were about to say something about that weekend. You're looking.
Oh, the
back.
week where he was on TV every
So,
day.
so that I knew that week was a fluke. That was not sort of my fault. We had 2 days of Teen Moms. It was only Monday through Wednesday we're talking about here, and it was. I had a thing for the governor of North Dakota I had to do, and that's what you're talking about when you were
right,
in the
and
room.
I had to set it up, and I didn't even know it was coming.
Right, but everything else was like an hour here, an hour there, just a couple of other things that just happened to fall that week. So it was, there was no Fox. Oh, and there was one Fox News appearance too. Not Fox News.
You have
not
to understand,
Fox News,
Michael.
Fox 11.
Okay,
Fox Channel
so
11.
Drew got a temporary 2-month deal with Fox 11 to do COVID.
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
COVID reports with Alex Michelson.
Not Fox News.
Not Fox
11.
News. Fox 11. Sorry.
There's a local.
And
there's a local affiliate.
it turned into a year and a half. But the problem is every time we travel, we'd have to zoom in from our studio every night. So they weren't paying me money, and I had to set up the camera and make sure. And I'm talking about you have 10 minutes to set up a camera, and you have to have it in focus and centered, and the sound. So we have a whole sound system here, and I'm working with their guys, and it's at 7:00 every night. And it's like I didn't go out for a year and a half. Of course, we were in quarantine for part of that, but I got to the point I'm like, when do you go back in studio? Like, I really love having these skills and feel appreciated. Although somebody called me an assistant, and I wasn't real happy about that.
To me? Assistant
no,
to
to
who?
me.
Who you were assistant to?
Sebastian. He goes, "You're such a good assistant," and I was like,
yeah.
But anyways,
I see. My director, but your assistant director.
No, they paid him money, so that's good because I benefit from that. It pays my rent. It pays for my food.
Is it civil like this? Is this is this kind of a bickering thing, or do you actually? Did you ever raise your voice, Susan or Drew? Do you ever be like, "Would you just leave me the fuck alone"?
I did today.
No, not that bad, but we just had one today.
Because
what happened, Susan?
I called him and said, "Would you please?"
Would you please?
No, he said, "I need to get a flight."
Wait. Okay, I need to get a flight. Yes.
Yeah, he said, "I need to get it." He was waiting after his vaccine, and he said, "I need to go out on Monday." And I said, "Well, I think the latest flight was 1:30. What time was the latest flight?"
I switched it to Burbank.
Oh, okay. And I said, "Well, check on the times and then tell Jackie." And he mistook it as book it. And then he got here and I said, "Oh, you shouldn't book it because they're not going to pay you because MTV likes to book it." And it's a long story. It's BS.
Okay, here's what actually.
You
So
raised
he
your
came
voice.
in and I was prepping the show and I was running a little behind, and I've been with contractors all morning, and I'm, I basically ate like here by the computer and while I was prepping the show, my first meal, and I got a little hot and I said,
"What did you say?
Leave me alone."
How loud?"
Pretty loud. but I don't usually do that. But he was.
Can you
he was.
show me? Give me an example.
He
I wanna
was
hear
fighting
how
with
loud-
me. He started
Susan,
fighting.
let's hear it. Let's hear
He
what it is.
started.
Let's
He said,
let's
"You
hear
didn't
it.
tell me to do that." And I said, "Yes, I did." And he goes, "No, you didn't. You didn't tell me to do it." I was like, "Okay, fine. Just handle it. Go tell Jackie or whatever, the manager who should be handling all this travel." I'm also the travel agent. I just want everybody else to know that I manage his travel on top of his schedule.
You know what?
on
Susan
top
had
of
to go
his
into
life.
politics. She's really good at not answering a question and not following
Yeah.
an instruction. It's amazing.
I wanted
just,
to hear
just
it. Drew.
goes
I
on.
wanted to hear it.
Michael, 30 years. I've been with this guy for almost 40 years. So
But you're setting yourself up by working together and doing all these things. It's things like this are
Yeah.
definitely gonna happen. This is
Yeah.
part of
That's
right,
right.
and
That's right.
I would like to streamline my productions to 3 times, maybe 4 times a week, and have a little bit of a life for myself. And I love doing it, but we were doing it like 7 days a week for a while, and he wanted to call it a daily dose of Dr. Drew, and I was like, no, not calling it a daily dose, because then we have to do it every day.
That's funny.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I didn't really think that.
I named the show. He called it Daily Dose. I was like, no. And then you go, we're going to be back tomorrow. And I would be like, nope, we're not going to be back tomorrow. We'll be back next week.
I like this. I didn't realize I'd get a dose of Dr. Drew and Susan.
It's fun, right?
This is good. I wasn't expecting this.
So not to drill into this too
Okay,
hard, but
I'm
the
done.
phone call was. There's no tickets left. I go, okay, well, here's what I need. I'm too busy. You just go do it. Just make it. And I'm like, okay, I got it. So I went and did it.
That's what I sounded like.
Oh
I'm
yes.
sorry if I sounded like that, but I was.
And then look, your son, whom I met in the kitchen, you chased him out with the exact same energy. I go, what are you doing there? He goes, I thought you were going to watch the show. He goes, Mom screamed at me. I'm not going to take that. It's all right. But she says she's too busy and too, preoccupied. And that's, that's your mode. And I actually don't mind it, to tell you the truth. Because I know that's,
I want to
hang on.
explain that too.
Hold on. That's her
why
one
he got
mode. When
chased
she
out.
gets overwhelmed, it comes out all over the place. And our job is to get out of the way.
And then
That's
I
all.
just drink a
Pretty
little
simple.
vodka and I'm fine. But anyways, be that as it may, he came in bitching about something else that I couldn't talk about, and I said I can't really talk about that right now. And
I like
then
the way you're. I like the way.
but then he
you're-
kept going after it like you do, and I said finally I said I can't do this right now.
I like the way she
prepping a show.
I can't really talk about that right now. I hope you wouldn't mind, but I have to prep a
said
show.
that.
So
I
yeah.
said that the first time.
That's the when the tape plays back. That's Susan Pinsky's movie, and then my son Jordan's version is get out of here! I can't deal with it right now.
See, my family's always have been loud. They're New Yorkers. Everything's yelling, even though they're not really angry. Everything's loud. It feels so. In fact, my dog, who's really old right now, is in the backyard.
Yeah.
And last year, he's going deaf. So I'd be like, Irv, let's go.
Yeah.
And then I realized my neighbors are hearing this. So
Yeah.
then I said, Irv, I'm only yelling at you because you're deaf.
Yeah.
I don't really yell at people.
Yeah.
Trying to, make
Yeah.
it easy.
And Michael, to your point, I come from a loud family too. My mom was an opera singer and was a screamer. And I don't think Susan likes loud. Susan does not like that. That's not her thing, even though she gets into it periodically. That's probably why it doesn't bother me that much. I just feel like that's my job.
Well, your
to get out of
parents
the
were
way.
really loud.
Yeah. And
Like
so-
My parents were I'd rather my dad hit me than yell at me. My mom would walk into a room randomly. I don't know if she was loaded up on Valium or whatever, Doc, but she would walk in and she'd go, I wish you just shut the fuck up, and run upstairs in her nightgown. It was like whatever happened to Baby Jane. She was whatever happened to fucking Baby
So
Jane.
you had Betty Davis. I had Joan Crawford. So that's what I had.
Your parents were the
That's why we like
Costanzas,
each other
though.
so much.
Yep. That's and I try not to blame. I don't blame. I say, look, I'm a grown up. I'm trying to do. I can't blame my parents. I can't do this. But I find myself doing some of those things that they did, and it's almost like it's inadvertent. It's just off the cuff, and I'm like, fuck, I sound like my dad. God, I'm like impatient like this. I think that's inevitable, though, probably.
Speaking of inevitable, Tom Segar, I want to respond to something he's saying. Well, I'm watching it. You're watching the scream here, and there is a movement afoot with the producer of a show I do called After Dark. They want me to smoke pot with them, and I don't object to that. It's just I have no problem with that. It's just that I'm worried that it'll be seen as sort of endorsing certain things. You know what I mean? Like
Drew Stone.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing. It's like, yeah.
Tom saying, get Drew Stone.
Right. And so Tom's cigar
Well,
is
you
very
can't drink for 3 days, so
because of the vaccine.
so you can have a little THC.
Yeah, but Nadav wants to run me through some sort of cycle, and it's like,
Nah.
I had to really.
You got enough problems right now post-COVID.
Yeah. Anyway,
I'm going to say no.
For the record, I'm not endorsing that. I've seen problems with it, and I'm not don't want to sort of be part of the problem. By the same token, I'm happy that it's legal. I'm glad people can use it to their benefit when they can not get in trouble with it, and off we go. So,
hey, but sometimes, like Chong once said, "Toke it out, man. Toke it out, man."
He's
so cute.
He's funny. Was he on this show or the podcast?
He was on my show, and I was on his show, and I was actually live on stage with him one time on a show with my psychics.
Crazy.
One of my favorite movies is Up in Smoke, Susan, by the way. The best scene is when the cop comes up and he goes, "Sir, can I see your license?" And he's so stoned, he goes, "Isn't it back there on the bumper?"
I've forgotten that part. That's really funny. Really funny.
He's a good-looking guy, He's like, now at
he's
his age,
75 now.
Yeah,
too, right?
he looks good, but he was trying to cure his prostate cancer with
right. That's where I was getting a little
cannabis.
objection.
I don't know how that worked.
Right, it was going to cure all cancer and cure this, cure that. It's like no. It's not the greatest thing in the world. It's not the worst thing in the world. Let's just be realistic, everybody. That's all I want.
Yeah.
So, and by the way, I'm sort of weirdly. We're in California now where it's essentially legal to do anything, right? We have these propositions that have made drug use legal, drug trafficking legal, stealing to support your habit legal. And I don't actually in principle object to drugs being legal. What I object to is letting people die of addiction. That's what I object to. Right. And so if you're going to make things legal, you have to be able to go after people who are in trouble because of that's what you've done. But if you let people die, they're going to just die at an incredible rate. And people miss the fact that, and this is the part that they're getting completely wrong, which is that addiction is a progressive illness that ends in death. Period. End of story. It's progressive, particularly with the opiates and the meth, which is what's going on in the streets. And if you think that people are just going to live their best life, they just happen to be on the streets, that is BS. They're going to die, and you're part of the problem. You're killing them. So that's what I'm working on these days. I like it a lot. Yeah, I'm trying to really get. If I went on Rogan, I could smoke weed with him, Tom. That's a good idea. That would sort of be an interesting.
Nervous?
I think that's why you haven't been on his show.
Am I nervous about
what? Drew, are you nervous about how you'll act on weed? Like, for me, I see these shows like the hot wings, and even though you're not stoned, you're eating hot wings. I'm like, I'm gonna eat one, and I'm gonna barf all over myself.
Yeah.
See, if I get stoned, I've been asked to get stoned on shows, and I'm like, I'm a lightweight, man. One hit, and I'm floored. And what am I gonna say? Am I gonna black out? Am I gonna embarrass the life out of me?
I'm not worried about that. I'm really not. I'm just not. I maybe I don't quite understand what's gonna happen to me. But I have tried cannabis, and I just don't get anything out of it.
They also are a long way away. You have to drive home.
From what? From Joe Rogan's place in Texas?
No, not Rogan. I'm talking about
from
your
after
mom's
dark.
house.
After dark. Yeah, that's true too.
Uber or have
to
Susan pick you up.
Yeah, I could take you.
You don't see her enough.
That's really funny.
I love you, Drew. I like having you around.
I know, because we have a good time. We're good, and I love you too.
And nobody on the Restream has said that I should shut up on this show. So
that's good. So this is a breakthrough.
Yeah.
This is what you call a breakthrough. So, all right. There are, however, on the Restream, I don't know if you saw it scroll by, a lot of requests for Christopher Walken. And I know people that do imitations hate it when people ask for that, but I'm just representing the crowd here.
Well, I was doing that back in the 90s, and then everybody started doing it. But I'll give you a little bit like, Drew, it's time you smoke a little reefer. Listen to Tom. Segura. Doesn't matter. If you get stoned, you're a doctor. The worst can happen, you'll lose your license. But you do it, and it'll be great. It's going to be great, Drew. There you go.
Chris, you happy? You got your Christopher Walken? Everybody good?
Did he push Natalie Wood off the boat?
Oh, boy.
No, I was sleeping. So I don't know if that's true. I could have done it if I was stoned.
My buddy Jay Moore does it with Christopher Walken too.
He does. I've heard him do it a few times. Yeah. I worked with him, and he was really funny because I remember I came up to him and I said, "Oh my God, I'm working with you, man, Michael Rosenbaum. Should I call you Chris, Mr. Walken?" He says, "I don't know. Call me Flash." And then he walked off. That's what he said.
This was Jay did that or
no, Walken did
Walken
that.
himself did that. Yeah.
A little movie called Pool Hall Junkies. Yeah, yeah.
So funny. You know, the Natalie Wood thing, I got to say something about that. Last time we were on a plane, we watched the Natalie Wood documentary. I think I don't know if it's on.
I saw you.
Yeah. So I actually stopped and took a picture because they were like, we don't know what happened. They were drinking a little bit, but no big deal. And the coroner was such an asshole back then. The coroner, Yamaguchi, I think his name was, botched every overdose case. John Belushi, Marilyn Monroe, Mama Cass, everyone completely botched them. And hers is no exception. And so I took a picture. They put her medication list from the autopsy on the screen. I was like, oh my God, look what she is on. And by the way, I don't think Natalie is an addict. This is doctor overprescribing again. This was the beginning of all that. And I'm going to read to you the medicines that she was on. It's astonishing.
I'm guessing Xanax, some antidepressants.
It was a little pre-Xanax time. So it's going to be way worse than that, I'm sorry to tell you. I'm sure that kind of stuff was available. There was some of that stuff on her list. I should be able to get it here pretty quick. Hold on. La 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 la.
Do you think there was foul play?
No, I don't. I don't. I think these medications explain the whole thing.
They were all drunk and fucked up. They found broken bottles of wine everywhere.
A glass of wine would have put this woman into a coma. Here it is. I've got the list. All right, here we go. Darvon, which is an opiate. Placidil, 500 milligrams. That's a barbiturate at a huge dose, never used anymore.
Goes well with cocaine. If you're really high in cocaine, you want to come down.
How do you know that?
Jesus, Susan. Are you powdering your nose lately? What are you doing?
What is that all about?
They did cocaine in those days, too, just so you know.
I see.
So all of this was in her bloodstream.
This is her list of what she took that day. Yeah. Wait, there's more. There's more. Dalmane. Dalmane was an old sleeping medication that came just before Restoril, and it was like a hammer. And you put Dalmane with Placidil, and you don't breathe. And you put somebody on some wine, and then in the water, done. It's over after that. So, I mean, what's Optimine? Is that, and Metahydrin? What's she on that for? Let me look that up. I mean, there's some medicines in there I don't even know.
My God, and she wasn't a large woman.
Not at all.
And a small little thing. So for her to just fall off on a boat, it seems pretty logical.
Right.
If they were all high on that stuff, they wouldn't hear her. You know, they all
This is why I don't smoke pot a lot or do things like this. Because one hit, and I'll be like, oh my God, he just barely had a hit of weed and he fell off a boat. Okay. I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Wait a minute. What is Optimine? For headaches or something?
She was a mega superstar. It's so sad.
Oh, so sad. And again, I don't blame her. It is. Oh my God, what is this drug? Oh, it's an antihistamine essentially.
So which can make you drowsy too.
Right, and then the other was Metahydrin. Let's see what she's doing up with that. She had a lot.
That's because
of
when you put Coke
board.
in your nose, you need to clear up.
Oh my God, you're obsessed.
By the way, she's right. I remember when I did Coke back in the Disney
80s or whatever.
I remember I had the reason I hated it so much is because I was like this. I couldn't my brain, so I'd have to take an antihistamine. But that's not good.
I mean, what year did she fall off the boat? It was in the 80s, right?
Could have been. I can't swear.
Those were the days when cocaine flowed freely.
What people miss about that history, chloromethazine, it's a water pill, a diuretic. So what people miss from that time is, I remember this vividly, is that if you look up the old Time magazine articles about cocaine back in the early 80s particularly, new drug for the wealthy, a non-addictive drug for people that can afford it. Look at this new drug people are getting into. Non-addictive. I swear to God, for about 4 years, it was considered a non-addictive substance. And then people started seeing what happened, and then once they started smoking it, it was just on. It was on. So yes, that was our heritage with cocaine. It was just something that, well, it'll be legal any day now because it was just nothing, no big deal.
Oh.
By the way,
Michelle, I was reading comments. Michelle, this is my new band, Sunspin. Go to sunspin.com. You can hear the new music and stuff. Sunspin.
Give us a little America.
That's right. Before we started, I said, name this tune. Segura might know it. He's old enough.
Well, we know it. Just couldn't place it. Go.
Chewing a piece of grass, walking down the road. Come on, Segura. Anyway, that's all you get.
That was a great. America was actually pretty cool, but
I loved America.
Yeah,
I really loved it. Easy to play on guitar, great harmonies. Yeah, I loved it. And you thought it was bread at first.
Went well with cocaine.
Oh my God, Susan, you're obsessed. Wow.
Susan. By the way, Drew, have you ever seen her
70s.
powder her nose?
No.
Have you ever seen
100 years ago. 100 years ago.
I was a model in the 80s. Come on, I saw my share.
I could just imagine Drew doing coke. Probably. Have you ever done coke, Drew?
He is not a good coke person.
No.
I could see you perspiring. Are you a perspirer?
I'm a chest pain panic. Get me
Yes.
out of here.
It's like Woody Allen on cocaine.
So,
Happened once in front of that.
oh, I don't know if I should be doing this. This is.
I'm gonna have a heart
my
attack.
chest is heavy.
Exactly.
I'm sweating now. I don't. I feel like it's the vaccine thing again. I don't. The cocaine. Oh God.
Hey, I have a question for you. One of the things I've noticed is that everybody seems to be doing lots of interesting things, but nobody's doing the thing they dreamed of, so to speak. What about you?
You know, I think I am. I think if I can get out of my head, if I could be present, I'd realize that I am living a great dream.
But what was that one thing? Like it seems like, directors want to be actors want to be musicians want to be actors. It just everybody.
Sure. I always wanted to be. When I was a kid, I was like, look, I never had a voice. I never thought I had a voice. I never had singing lessons. And it took me till I was 47 years old to go, who gives a shit what anybody thinks? Honestly, play music because you love it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started doing it, it's just the floodgates open. I started writing and I just really enjoy it and love it. And it was always a dream of mine to play music, and second album now. And it's not something I don't consider myself a rock star. I don't think I'm going to be a billionaire off it, but I love doing it. And it was always a dream of mine to record music. And so there's that. And I guess in college, I always, I thought of fame. Those actors who say, I do it for the craft. I absolutely don't. I love the theatre. I'm sure there's some fucking truth to it, but like, you want to be famous. People, you want to be seen. You want to be in movies. I want to be great. But
you're probably the first person I've heard actually admit that straight up top, and I agree with you. I think that's right.
I think it's like come on, you're doing it because you just love it so much, and that you just I get that you love it, but there is that part of it that you do want to be famous. You do want to go to the Chinese Man's Theater and put your hands in some cement. You do want to you like it's nice when people recognize you and say, hey, I like your work. Anybody who says that they don't like that, or people who are like, oh, it's a lot of horse shit. And I'm really in my later years. I'm not an old man, but I definitely feel more grateful, and I'm so much more engaging with people than I ever had been. And maybe it's the podcast or whatever, but I go to these conventions and people want my autograph. I'm like, fuck, if they want my autograph, it could be worse. So I think in a lot of ways, if I can get out of my head, I am living the dream, but I do get in my own way, like I think most people do.
Well, you've mentioned gratitude, and gratitude is the one thing when people talk about, I know they're doing well. I know they're in the right zone. They're right where they should be. And you're grateful for the things you should be grateful for. But isn't it bizarre how these some people that become famous are resentful of people coming near them or coming up to them or wanting to congratulate you? That's part of the job. What are they? What is? I don't know what that is. What's wrong with them?
I have actors that make fun of me, like big actors, that because I have autographed posters or pictures in my house, they're like, wait a minute, you had Steve Martin sign your jerk poster? I'm like, well, fuck yeah, I did. What are the odds of me working with him again? He's not going to remember. Who cares? I love Steve Martin. He was so happy to do it. It was the last day of filming. Or, seeing, I love horror movies and having Bruce Campbell sign my Evil Dead poster. He's a friend of mine. He's like, really, you want it? I remember Sly Stallone in Guardians of the Galaxy. I went up to him on the last day. We wrapped, and I had a lunchbox of Rambo, which I downstairs. And I said, would you sign my lunchbox? And he goes, you got a lunchbox? How old are you? I go, I'm 48. He goes, 48 years old. You got a lunchbox. I go, look, I'll sign your lunchbox if you want, but like something's wrong with you. But I there's something, as a kid, I always dreamed of being in movies, and I used to go to conventions before I was anybody, getting autographs, and it's just part of me. I love it. I love the excitement. I love the excitement of being on set. And if I really like someone, and some people will say, come on, you work with them. Isn't that enough? Like, isn't that weird that you go up and ask these people for autographs? But back to your question, it's more of a like, I don't know how people are just put off. People say they're shy, they're private. And when you're overwhelmed with so many people, like I'm not a big star, but there are a lot of big stars. I can understand how it gets overwhelming.
Yeah, it gets a little almost dangerous, you know.
Yeah, it gets a little dangerous. But, you know, for me, it's like I go out and, you know, it's nice. It's at a nice level where I go to the grocery store and I'm like, you know, it's like, oh, hey, nice to meet you. Or I get a free, you know, people give you free shit. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Oh, no kidding. So how I got a text that sort of got my attention.
Tia said you need your own show or a sitcom.
Is that coming?
No, he said he needs it.
Yeah, I'm sure that's coming. Somebody's developing something, right?
Look, like I said, I think, look, why I have the podcast, I think people have just been like, it's like a regular dude is talking to people. And that's the biggest compliment you can give me, because I really feel like I never fit in with celebrities. I never feel like I belong. Yeah. So having my own space and mic and talking to people, and I think that's why I do it, and I hope I do it well. But I have my own podcast, but I'd love to have my own show one day. That'd be great. But like, whatever happens, you know.
The other thing I've noticed, people that are able to work and perform and have a public life and stuff, oftentimes those that are grateful and know how to manage it are people that have worked in the world before, like had real jobs. Did you have a real job before all this?
Yeah, I mean, you know, out of high school, I worked in grocery stores, and I worked at a go-kart track as a mechanic. Wasn't very good. Worked at a roller rink. Worked at Emergency Skills Incorporated in New York. You know, I'd be on the phone going, Emergency Skills Incorporated. Do you know that your average employee has about 6 minutes to live if they have a heart attack? And here at Emergency Skills, hello, and that was like, so I had all those, you know, sorts of jobs in New York, and then I started getting work probably when I was about 25, 26. But I know what work is, and my dad, I watched him work, and the one thing that I will say is my dad never missed a day of work, and his work ethic was too much. Like, he always was like, on time, you're gonna do this, and he embed.
He froze up. Oh, goodness gracious. Well, let me answer some stuff here. Space Monkey on the Twitter feed here on the restream. I feel like there should be actual studies on fame and its effects. There's tons of literature out there on fame and its effects. I actually have the only published study on famous people. Most people can't get access to famous people, and so I could, especially when I was doing Loveline. I studied over 200 famous people and published the data in a journal called Journal of Research and Personality, and it was actually a breakthrough research that showed that people that seek celebrity have more childhood trauma than average. They seek their celebrity as a bid to solve the trauma, which of course it does not, so then they have more trouble later. And we were able to show why there was more addiction and all that kind of stuff as well. So we actually have that study. That was my study, and we wrote a book about it called The Mirror Effect, where we discussed this in more detail. And it was a very interesting sort of a study to do. And I would say that I saw the narcissistic turn happen when I first started working in the psychiatric hospital in 1984. We'd have these diagnostic sheets, and there's a personality disorder component of those diagnostic sheets. And back in 1984, when I first got there and was looking at these things, it was all over the place. Cluster A, Cluster B, Cluster C, dependent, OCD, all kinds of stuff was in the personality box. And somewhere in the late 80s, about 1988, I started noticing that it was all switching to Cluster B, borderline, sociopath, narcissist. And by into the 90s, it was only Cluster B, and it stayed there. Now, we had this huge narcissistic turn, and narcissism became a much more common phenomenon than it had really ever been. And again, we wrote about it in the book. But now what's crazy to me is that we've gone from narcissism to histrionic, right? Now we have hysteria where people can't get out of their emotional spins. I talked to a therapist today, Annadelle. Annadele's last name, I'm blanking on it. But Annadelle, that's going to be up in about 6 weeks, the Dr. Drew podcast. And she agreed with me that there's just hysteria constantly. And we talked about how Annadelle, Barber is her name. And we talked about how back, if this had been 5 years ago and someone came in and said things like, I think there's a conspiracy, or I think everyone's a fascist, or I'm worrying, thinking about Hitler. Thinking about Hitler and Nazis is something that was considered a psychiatric symptom until about 2 years ago when everybody started doing it, and we became collectively hysterical and collectively maybe a little bit delusional too. So there you go. That's kind of interesting. Susan, do we have Michael back? Did he have a power outage or something?
I just emailed him. I just got it. He did email me when he couldn't hear, so I got his email. Because sometimes when you work with the PR people, nobody gives you that phone number, and that's a bad idea when it comes to the show. He'll come back if he can.
Let me look at some of your remarks in the meantime while we're sitting here hanging out. I'm just looking at who's here.
Make sure you ask him about his dog, too.
I know. That's where I was going.
Oh, here he is.
There we go. I heard him.
Okay, let's just hope this... Okay, here we go. Let me get him back.
No, hysteria is more like delusional. So, we get really like paranoid about things. There you are.
So my house, the
Can I go over
power,
here?
the power completely went out.
Really?
I figured something
How
happened.
The whole house just turned off. I was just like, what the hell did I say? What did I say?
Wow. So do we not have a picture, Susan? Is that what's happening?
We're good now.
I don't see him.
You know?
No.
You know why? Because I don't have him.
There we go.
There he is.
Oh, God. I was like,
Sorry,
oh, my God.
bad. I didn't switch it. I was looking at him.
Okay. So then the power came back, presumably?
Power came back on. It just came back on. So I was like, all right. I had to reboot.
Welcome to Los Angeles. This is the great
happens.
Mecca. So Casey Gates asking, does narcissists turn into sociopaths? No, sociopaths are narcissists. But let's you mentioned your dog and his lack of hearing. What's going on with your dog?
Well, funny you say. So I rescued Irv when he was like 6 months old, and he's 13.
Oh.
He'll be 13 and a half, and he's went blind twice. I got his eyesight back. Autoimmune disease.
What did he have that got rid of he lost sight?
I don't know. So he had an autoimmune disease, and he went completely blind after like this little surgery. And I was like, what's going on? And so I called all my friends, and all of a sudden, not to name drop, but Jeannie Buss from the Los Angeles Lakers, who's a good friend of mine. I always have this thing when I name drop, I have to drop something. So
okay. Well, I know.
I like Jeannie.
We've met Jeannie too. She is lovely. She's really a lovely person.
She's an amazing woman.
Yeah.
And she called me and says, Michael, go to Dr. Farr. She will take care of his eyesight. And lo and behold, I took Irv there, and within a week and a half, he had his eyes back. She put him on the right stuff.
How cute.
It was amazing. And he's been through a lot of hell. And, those shepherds get, I don't know if it's called myelopathy in the back of their legs.
Myelopathy.
Maybe that's it.
Like there's various things that can cause it, like
it's just
back problems.
Deteriorated to the point it's just gotten so bad that I have to hold him up to poop now. He falls a lot. So I actually, right before I did this little thing with you, I emailed all my friends, my family, and all the doctors and just said, hey, unfortunately, the time has come. It's one of the saddest days ever. So I'm planning on doing it the beginning of next week. And I already called the woman, this husband and wife team that, they make it easy on you, but it's just so overwhelming. And it's like,
have you done that with a dog before?
No, never done it.
It's a little weird. Here's what's going to bother you. I predict. So first of all, it's at a certain point, I've been coached. Now, of course, I'm speaking a lot of school. I'm not a veterinarian, but the veterinarians have coached me that dogs at the very end of life suffer a lot. And so what you want to do is time it so you don't get into that last phase, which apparently is horrible for the dogs. And that last phase can last a couple of days. So you want to stop things before they suffer, number one. But when it comes to sort of picking that time, that's weird.
It's hard.
You know what I mean? You're like.
Let's just put it this way: Drew's not very good at it.
Well, Well,
Oh,
how about?
there he is. There's
Well, I
little
think we
Irv
did.
right there.
Nah.
I think we got it exactly right with the dog we did that.
I
with.
had to take care of her all last weekend. I wasn't.
And
happy.
she had a good weekend, and that was that. And
She
so,
did.
You know,
I mean-
Rainn Wilson came on the podcast and he had just put his dog down. And I go, why are you here? And he talked about it and he said, you know, it comes a point where these dog owners become selfish and they keep these dogs alive for, you know, and I know it's not, you know, it's not malicious. It's not, they love the dog so much, but they don't realize that the dog's suffering. And, you know, I don't, you know, at that point where, you know, he whines a lot. I
Yeah.
feel like he is in a little pain.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
feel
be
like
careful.
he just, can you hear me?
Yeah.
He just can't walk. He can't, like, I have to hold him up. I carry him up to pee or poop.
Mm.
He pooped, you know, he didn't even get up to poop today. He just pooped. He was like, you know, so I kind of feel like there's that quality of life that's just gone. And it's like, what am I doing here?
Right.
You know, my grandfather suffered from Alzheimer's, and I used to pray 2 years before he died that he passed. He was my best friend because I was like, I don't want him. He wouldn't want to be like this.
So two things. One is you'd be amazed how often people are selfish and keep humans alive through unbelievable suffering. It's routine, which is why, speaking of your grandfather, people need to make their wishes. COVID should have made this a public conversation or a national conversation. You need to make your wishes explicit way ahead of time. Like for me, no nursing homes. If I'm so far gone neurologically or physically that I need institutional support, palliative care in the home, that's it. Call it quits. This nursing home stuff is not for everybody. And if you want that, make that clear to your family. And if you want everyone to do everything, make that clear. But if you're at the point where you can't meaningfully interact with the outside world, or there's, I just call it sort of no productivity, nothing meaningful going on, let's take
That
care
means
of
like hospice, right?
something like
palliative.
hospice. Yeah, hospice is one of the palliative cares, and yeah, just something that's not. When I worked in nursing homes, I could keep people alive forever. I mean, it was indefinite what we could do, and in states of essentially just like lab preps. I mean, they're just like these bodies that are alive, but technically, but you know, we're really
You've
nothing
seen a
going
few of
on.
them, so you know.
Yeah, I had my friend Tom. His mom was like in a hospice for like 13 days where they didn't feed her. Like, you know, they're just letting her act or passive euthanasia or whatever it's called.
Mm-hmm.
But they, you know, and it was like, what is this?
Painful.
It's tough. And you know, my grandmother just always wanted him around and just, nope. I want him around no matter what it takes. She didn't want to be alone.
So that's the part I dealt with all the time, which was the spouse or the son or whatever didn't want to feel the grief. So selfishly, they kept that person alive in spite of knowing that person would never have wanted that. The job is to represent the patient. I blame the doctors for letting that happen, by the way, because if your patient has made that clear to you, you got to represent the patient when the time comes against the family if that's what's necessary, because they're going to feel the grief anyway. And by the way, and in the meantime, you're going to stretch out the misery over God knows how long.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's what happens. It's almost like you grieve as the years, like once he had Alzheimer's, it's like almost I was losing a part of him every year a little more. I would grieve a little more and more until the end where it was just like, please take him. Like I've had him so long and I love him that I can't see him like this. He's a brilliant man and it's tough. And so with the dog, I'm just, you know, my friends are all going to come over Sunday and just one at a time and just say goodbye to Irv. And it's been like a close family. They all love him. And my grandfather, funny enough, his name was Irv. So I named the dog Irv. And he's like, what the hell are you naming your dog? I'm not even dead yet. I don't think you can even do this in the Jewish religion until someone dies. And I'm like, well, and then he called me up the next day and goes, I read about it. It's okay if it's a dog. They don't have any laws against that.
Oh my God, he sounds so funny.
He was so funny.
Oh
Always.
my goodness.
Just a ham.
Somebody just recommended a documentary called on TV, I guess probably in Amazon or something, called Choosing to Die. So you can take a look at that. But tell me more about him. He sounds like he's an extraordinary person. Where did he grow up? What was his life like?
Irv was from the Bronx, and he was a teacher his whole life. He was a principal in high schools, and you know, he became an arbitrator later in his life. But
wait a minute. Did he get a law degree late in his life too?
No, I think he just did. You know, I remember he was an arbitrator. So whatever degree he got to be an arbitrator, he would do cases.
Crazy.
So Yeah, and by the way, the greatest thing about him though, and he'd always tell me this, he's like, Mike, there's nothing better than having a family. Mm. Everything else doesn't matter. Your family. Having a family, and he had this, I can't do it. The reason I'm scared to be a parent is because of him, because he was such a good role model. He had undying energy. He always would play.
You're afraid you won't live up to that.
I couldn't possibly, because it'd be 7 a.m. I go, let's go play tennis. All right, let's go do it. Let's go play golf. All right, let's go play. He just would do anything I wanted to do. He was just that guy, and just such a wonderful, wonderful man. And like, he was a big part of the reason why I think I survived through high school. Like I think I had depression issues, and I just didn't feel as loved as I probably should have, as you hear from a lot of actors. And my grandparents were there. They gave me that unconditional love. They wanted me. I'd stay summers with them. When my parents went away, they really, they just gave me that love, which was unbelievable, which helped me out incredibly.
Where did he grow up?
He was born in the Bronx, and then he really grew up, and they lived in New York. From the Bronx to Brooklyn to Farmingdale, New York is where he spent a lot of days. And he they moved to Florida, Tamarack, Florida, and that's where he passed away last Thanksgiving. Not this past Thanksgiving, the Thanksgiving before. On Thanksgiving.
And were his parents immigrants?
Yes. His father came over and left his 3 sisters who wanted to stay, and they all died from the Holocaust.
In Hungary, Ukraine? What are we talking about?
Hungary. Hungary.
Because I was looking at you thinking that's intellectual horsepower that you have is sort of typical of Hungarians.
Really?
Hungarian Jews, super smart people, super smart, like goofy, crazy smart. Like often, whenever I come across a patient with a bona fide photographic memory, Hungarian.
Really?
Yep. And the math thing in Hungary is a big deal, right? That's a big deal. And the language is impossible, right?
Right.
And I was sort of placing it in history, and the fact you didn't say they died in the Ukrainian genocide. You said they died in the Holocaust. So that only leaves a certain part of Eastern Europe to choose amongst, right?
Well, you could have said Germany, Poland. You could have said.
I could have said Poland.
Romania.
I could have said
a lot of places.
I could have said Poland, but I thought about your intellect, and I thought Hungarian. So
that's funny, because as a kid, I always thought I was dumb. I always felt like I was an idiot. I was like, I'm never going to get past this grade or that grade. So I think my skill set, it was sort of a survival, creativity.
No, I know smart.
I don't know.
No. I know smart when I see it. Stop it. Maybe you don't get the education that you wanted or something, but stop it. It's time to stop not being smart. You're smart. It's fine. It's all
right.
good. It's all good.
Isn't Christina P. Hungarian too?
She is. Is it Hungarian or yes, I think that's right. And she's crazy smart. And her dad's. That's why I want to talk to her dad, who's a Hungarian immigrant. And I just want to see what goes on in his head. He's kind of a goofy fellow. But yeah, there's a lot of for whatever reason, there's a lot of intellect in those genetics. That's the way.
Well, thanks for asking me about her, because no one's really ever asked me about him, and it was nice to just sort of say.
Well,
just a great husband. They were married 72 years.
Well, I see. Did you ask them about how often they're having sex? Do you get into their business the way you got into ours, Michael? Did you do that to them the way you did that to us?
You know what's funny, Drew, is when my family was around, my grandfather hated it, but I used to hammer him. I used to say, all right, I go, Irv. And he goes, what is it, Mike? And I go, if you had to make out with one of Blanche's friends, he goes, I don't want to do this game. And I go, no. If you had to kiss Audrey or Gugu or these were their names, Audrey, Gugu, and whatever. And he this isn't gonna happen, Mike. Why did it? And the whole family's laughing around him. And my grandmother's like, you better be careful what you say, Irv. And he had that attitude, like, I don't want to play your games with this crap. What are we doing?
Oh my God.
He didn't take anybody's shit either. If he didn't like someone, which was a fault, he would let you know. You knew he didn't like you immediately. Mm-hmm. And he told me, I interviewed him. I used to always interview him. And I said, what is? He goes, no, I feel very bad. I feel very bad, Mike. If I don't like someone, I just can't hide it.
That's sort of the New York thing.
He goes, your mother would come to visit, And I would sit by myself and I would say, you're going to be good. You're going to be nice. You're going to listen to what she says. You're going to have patience. And then within 5 minutes of her there, I wanted to get there. I took you kids out to play. I just couldn't deal with it.
Was this his daughter? That's his daughter?
No, that was his daughter-in-law.
Daughter-in-law. Okay, got it. And I brought him up to, just so you understand, because I could feel his presence with you talking about the dog.
It's his birthday today.
Oh, wow.
Is the vaccine making you psychic, Drew?
No, I always get weird feelings.
That's funny. I know.
That's crazy.
It's true.
And,
Maybe that's why your electricity went out. Your dad was here.
Well,
I mean, your grandfather.
I certainly feel like you can't escape thinking about him with what's going on with your dog. Oh, there he is.
That's him right there. You see him in the pool trying to dunk him?
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah, that's him.
You look pretty cool with those goggles, by the way. Very well done.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm a goggle wearer. I don't like water in the eyes. I can't see underneath without the goggles.
Smart boy.
So did you get any therapy later in life?
Is that a trick question?
And okay, the reason I bring that up is because when you were off with your electrical problem, I was telling the story of how I wrote this paper and did some publication and wrote a book about narcissism and celebrity, and you've been speaking very frankly about celebrity in your life. And for many people, celebrity is a bid. We were able to prove this is a bid to solve childhood injuries. And you opened this conversation by talking about the yelling and your mom's kind of aggressiveness and the Valium maybe, and you sort of hinted that there was a traumatic childhood there. And so I'm wondering if A, that's true, and B, was celebrity, now that you've had therapy, celebrity means something totally different, I'm sure, but was it initially a bid to make that all better?
Well, first of all, I love my mother, I love my father, and I've come through therapy, I've come to the understanding that I truly, and I've done a lot of work. I did this thing called EMDR, which is pretty freaking intense, and I didn't think it would work, and I supposedly was one of the best candidates for it. After she saw what happened, I opened up, the floodgates hit, and at the end, I just said, my parents did the best that they could, and I forgive them, and I love them. And were they great parents? No. Were they the worst parents in the world? No. Did they make a lot of mistakes? Yeah. But you move on, and I really was able to just kind of let go and just say that this is who they are. They're not capable of certain things. They're not capable of loving me as a child the way I wanted them to. They're not capable. This is just, these are the facts. And so I can't chase that.
Yeah.
And so therapy has really opened my eyes to that. And, I still got a lot of work to do. But the other question is interesting because I think when I was a kid, I didn't get the attention. I was ADD. I was all over the place. And it wasn't until I did a play in high school, the first time I ever got recognition. And I remember a popular kid walking down the hallway and going, you were real funny in that. And that was it. I knew from here on out, I have to be funny. I have to be entertaining, and I can't be me. So I feel like I never got to know me from that point on. I just became someone who craved attention, who craved just wanting to be the life of the party. And I became that. And then eventually it catches up with you and you find yourself at a certain age a little lost, and you're like, who am I doing this for? Right. Who have I been doing it for? When am I going to do these things for me? What is happiness? What are all these things and then, maybe it's midlife crisis, and I've had all these great things, career and fantastic friends, surround myself with amazing people. But I think the celebrity thing, I got lost in that, and that gave me something. It was like, that's what I have to do. I have to become famous. I have to be this. I have to get this attention. This is how I'm going to survive.
Yep. That's the deal. One or another version of that. Oh, Susan's flashing up here, an attachment image. I did an interview with a guy named Alan Shore, which talks about what you're supposed to get to grow the brain and what many of us didn't get. And then strangely enough, I just did an hour podcast on EMDR. It's not going to be up for about 6 weeks with, look for it. It's the Dr. Drew podcast with Annadelle Barber, but we did an hour on EMDR. And I'm a big EMDR advocate fan. I think it's a great therapeutic move.
Look how good he looks over that
And Susan is looking at this as right brain to right brain communication that has been shown what happens in therapy and attachment.
It looks like a set of balls.
So it's brains.
Yeah. I love that.
All right, I gotta wrap things up. Believe it or not, and it's been a romp. We've covered a lot of territory, my friend. It's been good, and thank you for calling us out, and thank you for being honest yourself. I think it's what makes good conversation, frankly. And I think people crave real these days, and so to be real is something that we don't always get. It's nice to have that.
I really appreciate your time and your openness. You guys were great. I didn't know what I was getting into, and this was really, I mean, it was educational, but it was also really fun. And I love how honest and forthcoming you are, because I think that's important when you see a doctor open up. And on my podcast, you talked about anxiety that you had back in the day and how you dealt with it. And it's just good to see. So thanks for having me. And you guys, if you want, check out my podcast, Beside You with Michael Rosenbaum. I'd love for you to subscribe and take a chance. So.
All right, my friend, let's not be strangers. That's what I said last time. And let's go hang out or do something once this COVID.
So nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Susan. I can't wait to hang out. We're going to do it.
All right, my friend. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
And bye, Michael. And Susan, are you ready to wrap us up? Whoop. Michael's going out. Whoa, look at that.
Oh, ooh, that's weird. Look at that. That's pretty cool.
All right, I'm going to wrap it all up. We appreciate Michael coming on in. We'll be back, I believe, on Monday. Is that accurate? Oh, no, back tomorrow.
Are we?
Friday.
What are we doing?
I've got time tomorrow with something. We can just do questions. We could just talk. We could take a little phone calls maybe. Tomorrow might be a good day for phone calls. What do you think?
Yeah, I have some stuff in the morning, so when I get back.
Yeah, I have to do after dark all midday.
Or we can call Anthony Brown. He can come.
Oh yeah, Anthony Brown. No, there was a chance.
I didn't know if Michael was going to work out today, and it's
Anthony
been
Brown is already asking, when can I come back? Let's say maybe tomorrow. How about a little bit of both?
Okay.
We
can do a little clubhouse calls. Talk to
little Anthony and little calls, and we'll get into it.
Yeah.
All right.
Like
Bye, guys. Thank you for being around. Hey, Mary, how are you? Good to see you. I see Mary Loins.
Hi, Mary. I saw you.
And phone calls there's a lot of.
I found a really cute picture of you and Judy today in my phone. I'll send it to you, Mary.
All right, we'll wrap this thing up. We'll see you guys later. This pandemic began, we were not sure how it spread. Everyone began wearing masks and using hand sanitizers. Great ways to slow the spread, but a lot of people still get sick. I can personally attest to that. We now know that COVID-19 spreads via aerosols and droplets from the nose and mouth, and I've been thinking about this for a while. Why aren't we also sanitizing the nose and mouth, killing the virus directly at the place where it spreads? Why weren't more doctors thinking about this? Well, some doctors have done the research. Wish I discovered it sooner. That's why I'm excited to tell you about Halodyne. It's an FDA-registered antiseptic for the nose and mouth that's proven to eliminate 99.99% of the virus that causes COVID-19 in just 15 seconds. That's right. It's created by a team of clinicians with decades of experience in antiviral treatments, initially created to protect healthcare workers. These are smart scientists, and it's a great product that also eliminates many other viruses and infecting particles. I'm using both their nasal antiseptic swab and their oral spray to help protect those around me, and you should be too. For others and for yourself. Whether you're hopping on a 3-hour flight, always use it there, visiting grandparents, or attending a meeting that you can't miss, Halodyne's family of oral and nasal antiseptics give you the safe, easy, on-the-go antiviral protection for up to 4 hours. I encourage you to try Halodyne at halodyne.com today. My listeners get 10% off with the discount code Dr. Drew. That is HALODINE.com, discount code DRDREW. So obvious. It just makes sense. Stop the virus before it spreads and gets in your body with Halodyne. Well, I too have struggled with GI issues over the years. I have something called Lynch syndrome, so gut health is extremely important to me. And while gut health awareness has increased, it's led to a wellness trend that's inspired a host of questionable marketing and some false claims. Now, you've seen the word probiotic attached to all kinds of supplements, drinks, even more. They may claim to deliver the healthy microorganisms our gut needs for proper function, but all too often the promises are in fact too good to be true. Thankfully, I became aware of a company called Seed and their flagship product, the Daily Synbiotic. Seed's Daily Synbiotic offers 24 clinically researched strains of microorganisms in a single dose. These strains support gut health and can improve regularity and relieve bloating, sometimes within as little as 24 to 48 hours. To me, what really sets Seed's Daily Symbiotic apart is the delivery system. While some products may offer the right strains, they're fragile, they rarely survive the trip through the gut, doesn't get where it needs to go, but Seed uses a capsule in capsule design that helps ensure the probiotic reaches your colon, which is where they often are needed. I've been taking Seed's Daily Symbiotic, and I really encourage you to check out their story and the science behind what they do. To try it for yourself, just go to seed.com/Dr. Drew. Use code Dr. Drew 20 for 15% off your first month of Daily Symbiotic. That is SEED.com/Dr. Drew. Use code Dr. Drew 20. I am so grateful for our friends at Blue Microphones. Not only have they completely changed what our show sounds like, they've given me headphones so I can monitor things better. This is the mic for millions of creative people, and now I know why. I'm so grateful for them completely changing the quality of our audio. You'll find Blue mics like Yeti and the Mouse, which we're using here, both in pro studios and home studios, literally all over the world. Their popular Yeti caster is a Blue Yeti microphone, plus a boom arm system that's behind many of your favorite podcasts. I run into them all the time, and now I know why. If you've ever thought about creating your own podcast or YouTube channel, Blue can make you sound and look great. Just visit bluemic.com and click Get Started, and you can start telling your story.